What's up, guys? So in this video I want to talk about how my painting skill has evolved over the years by using an example about me going back to this painting that I've been doing over and over again that I call Japanese Twilight. So the original painting was done back in 2014 and has since been redone 3 times so that I have 4 versions of this painting, each one done in a unique style and with my attempt at improving it each time. The word improving does seem relative in this context because people have liked all of these versions of this painting. But as I evolved as an artist, just like other artists do, I always sought after what would make it better. I want to talk about how I redone it and the new techniques and principles I had applied that I thought would make it more realistic. That was my goal with this painting, to make it look more realistic yet retain its larger-than-life and slightly fantasy appeal. So, this first version I did in acrylics. Look at how the colors are vivid all over the place and how many things just come out at you. I wanted to highlight everything in this painting in order to showcase the grandiosity of the plants and trees that surround the pagoda on the upper left. Also, pay careful attention to how I painted lots of small things everywhere, and to the trained eye, you can see that I used small paintbrush most of the time. With this first version, I jumped almost immediately to the painting, the details, without too much concern for the underpainting and base colors. Look at how rigid the brushstrokes are, many of them very similar, creating those jagged shapes that kind of seem to form crystals inside the plants. I'm not saying to necessarily avoid painting like this, because after all, this can be interpreted as a particular style that I had developed up to that point, but still, at least for me, I didn't think I lived up to what I wanted with this painting. Also, the colors lacked variety. I didn't put too much effort into diversifying the color variations for each plant. Like those bushes up the stairs, they only have just a differentiation amongst their values, not really their other attributes like the chroma or the hue. Okay, so now let's look at the second painting. This one I also did in acrylics. I did this one 2 years later, in 2016. With this one, I attempted to improve it by painting faster and less deliberate. I finished this one in a fraction of the time that I did the previous version. I have more color diversity in this one. Look at how I blended more greens together in the background, trees, and foliage. I did some underpainting too, so you can kind of see some of the layers of color underneath all those plants. The problem is, looking back, I didn't complete the final touches. I left everything too loose and unrefined. And of course, once again, this can be a particular style, so it isn't bad per se, but I always set high standards for myself. Also, once again, I used way too much color and tried to showcase way too much over here, without taking into consideration dropping down the chroma of much of the underpainting. I jumped way too quick to make many of the colors bold and vivid, which resulted in making the painting look way too noisy with regard to color and composition. So now let's move forward and observe painting number 3. I did this one in the fall of 2019 and actually have a video for it, and I put it in the description below. I did this one in oil paint. With this version, I wanted to tone down the intensity of the colors, or the chroma, and focus on creating a much more balanced painting that showcases a few highlights here and there. I did more careful underpainting that consisted of more grayer tones and was able to integrate the colors more evenly so that I left some room for the highlights on top. Notice how the colors are spread more evenly with nothing really sticking out too much. Alright, so now on to the last one, the 4th and final version, which I did a few months later. I have a video for this one as well in the description below. With this one, it wasn't a complete repaint, but a combination of subtracting and adding to the previous painting, as this is all the same canvas, as you can tell from the pagoda ceiling on the top left. I thought the previous version was somewhat drab and dull, and so I wanted to add a stronger sunlight coming in to highlight all the foliage. Notice how the colors are brighter and more vivid, but I balanced them out with the darker, more shadowy areas. Also, the underpainting helps to anchor these colors as well, so that I didn't need to spend that much on the preliminary work, as I have already established that foundation in the previous version. I also added some more detail so that I have some bold, fast brushing involved combined with more deliberate and slower brushing. This way the painting doesn't come off as stiff and rigid, but more balanced than the other 3 versions. At least I like to think so. So now let's look at how I painted the pagoda in these 2 oil paint versions. In the previous version, I think I rushed through it and I left some detail unfinished. The sides don't have all the refined sharpness that the reference photo had. And so with this 4th version, I wanted to spend some time refining it. Notice how I added more light to the left and dark to the right. This made it look more 3-dimensional and less dull. I added more contrast to the roof and those jagged things coming out of the sides. So that's the way I like to do things, add more detail and refine. So this is how my painting has evolved over time. I used to paint very deliberately in the beginning, rushing to doing detail way too early, which ended up having my paintings look too rigid and stiff. But now I'm looking to use that detail-oriented OCD style of painting to my advantage, combining that with some bold, quick painting, also combined with some considerate underpainting, so that I can anchor in my colors accordingly. Your painting will evolve over time, and sometimes it's fun to go back to an old painting and try to do it over again to see how your skills improved or changed over the years. Who knows, maybe one day I'll go back to doing this painting for a 5th time. Well, anyways, I hope you found something useful from this video. Click the thumbs up button and subscribe for my channel for some more content like this. So thank you for watching.